Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of my Node.js introduction series. Now in this video we are going to be quickly going over how to work with the file system, and this is quite a simple topic overall, like you can read and write files pretty much. And then I'm going to write a quick line saver program that lets you kind of write files to a line and read them from the same file, so that'll be a pretty interesting program. So to get started, I've already opened up my WSL terminal, but if you have not, if you're on Windows, go ahead and type open folder in WSL, and you open up this thing by doing Control-Shift-P or by going to View Command Palette, and then again open folder in WSL like that, or reopen will reopen your current folder, and open will select prompt you to select a new folder to open. And then you'll have this if you click on View Terminal, and if you're on Mac or Linux, just going View Terminal, you don't have to do any of the WSL stuff, and you'll have this terminal here. So navigate by using CD or ls, so ls will show you all of your current folders, and navigate into your proper folder for where your code is. So I'm just going to come into here like that, and now I have the working with the file system, so I have all of my files here. And in order to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to open up our index.js here. And now notice that we actually did a tiny bit of FS in the last video when I was just going over what packages are, but we're going to dive deeper into it in this video. So of course, in order to use the FS package or module, you have to go const fs, which is creating a variable, and that variable will be used as the gateway into accessing the module. And then you set it equal to require fs, and what this will do is it'll kind of look at all the code that's in fs, and it'll basically use it, and so that we can use it in our program. And sorry about the bird in the background. So again, in order to actually write a file, we go fs dot and then write file sync, for example. We'll write a file to the current directory, which is this text.txt, and by writing this, just this much is able to get us to write a line. So pretty much that is how you write a line using a file system in Node.js. Of course, to read file, we can say const file results equals fs dot. If we wanted to read file sync, then we can go test.txt, and then console.log the result, maybe file results. And this comes back as a buffer, so .toString. So the result of reading a file actually isn't like a word, it's not a string, it's what's called a buffer, and all that means is it's just in a different representation. So we can say dot, and then it's a function called toString, and that will give us a string that we can actually print out. So now if I go node index.js, we get a small error, no such directory test.txt, which let me see if that fixes it. Oh, that's why. I misnamed it. Text.txt. Okay. So I misnamed the thing in here, which is why it was saying there's no file that exists. So now it's printing hello text, which is exactly what's inside this text.txt. And notice there's only this console log here, and we're not actually telling it what to print. For example, if I say goodbye text, so if I'm now writing goodbye text to the file and I rerun this program, node index.js, you'll see here it says goodbye text, and then in our file it actually also says goodbye text now, which is pretty cool. So that is the basics of writing and reading. You might notice that there's this sync thing here, and I actually haven't gotten into that, and I probably am going to make a note to get into what promises are. But essentially in JavaScript as a concept, if you're not familiar, promises are ways to run code that do not, what is called asynchronously. And by default, JavaScript runs synchronously. And what that means is it reads line by line and runs each piece of code. So if it runs this piece of code, it'll wait for this piece of code to finish before going to the next line. But if you run a piece of asynchronous code, it'll come here, and if this is asynchronous, it'll start running this and it'll keep going, if that makes sense. So it won't stop because normally if you say let a equal 1 plus 1 and then let b equal a plus 1, you actually need to know the results of a in order to calculate b. So you can't like just get to the line here before executing the line here. But if you want to use promises, then you can let it just move on and say it's okay. Just go and then we'll do something when the promise is over. And that's not the greatest explanation because I don't want to get too deep into it here, but I will cover it in a future video, probably on this Node tutorial series. So that is the gist of writing and reading. So in order to make a line writer program, what we can do is we can probably just get the file result first, and then say console.log file contains, and then the file result .toString, because remember we have to do .toString in order to print the contents, and then we can say console.log new value. In fact, this is actually going to be pretty interesting because now we have to go Node.js readline, and readline is another one of the built-in another one of the built-in modules. So all we have to do is say const readline equals require readline, and now we can say const new file equals, or new file contents is equal to readline. So this is another module. And the way I can figure out how to use this, so this is how we actually create the interface, which means this is how it actually works. So paste that, and then here we can say rl dot, and there's question input. Let's say Node.js readline sync. Okay, so what this is going to do here is let's just do that. So what this will do is this will start printing the contents of a line, and this is a little bit weird the way I'm going to implement it right now, but this is just temporary. So we're saying the const new file contents equals equals line. So what we're doing here is we're awaiting, and I'm not going to do this. This syntax is a little bit advanced, but we'll say const readline is equal to async, and then I'll just use an arrow function. So again, an arrow function like this is no different than saying function, and then like this is the same thing. This is just a little bit shorter. So you type that, and then an arrow, and then that, and it's the same thing. So you can basically copy this in here, and we'll remove that. And what we can say is we can say await, and then rl dot input. Let me just make sure that's correct. I think my IntelliSense is messing up a little here. But readline dot create interface, and then this is our new file contents, and we can write those file contents to the same file, and then we can console.log, or actually we can skip the console.log. Let's see if this works. We get a small error. Let's figure out what's going on. So const readline, oh right, so yeah, this is a big mistake. I said readline here and readline here. You can't do two variables with the same name, so we'll just say read input, and then we'll actually have to say read input here and call it. And if you see here, let's go ahead and run this unhandled promise rejection. Okay, I'm getting a couple errors. Let me figure this out. New value rl.input is not a function. Okay, so yeah, that's my bad. We can say rl.question, And then we could just say new contents. So what I'll just do is I'll remove that. So let me just make sure this code is working now. Node index.js, file contains goodbye text. And now it's doing that. Okay. Node.js readline 1 line. So again, we're trying to figure out how to read a line, read line. I'm just trying to figure out how to basically get one kind of one piece of input. So maybe rl.prompt. Okay, so that actually looks like what we're looking for. So if you get in a bad state, you can just hit this trash can and then you can run view terminal again. You get a clean terminal like this. You may have to cd back into your correct folder, but that should be fine. And then so instead of using rl.question, we're going to say rl.prompt and let me just make sure that this is the correct. So rl.prompt writes the readline interface, new line in the output. So I'm just going to look up how to use Node.js readline just to make sure, because I want to quickly get through this without having to read too much of the docs. So okay, so actually, you know what, we're just going to do this. So instead of all of this here, I'm just going to create a new thing. So rl.question, and then we can say file new contents, and then we can say the second argument that comes to this function here is actually another function. So you can type function again, or you can put an arrow, and this is what's called a callback function. And the callback function has the name. So basically what this is saying is ask the question, and when the user responds, then run this code here. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and toss this code into here, and then type rl.close, and then that should be good. So I'll explain all of this code really quick. But let me make sure it's working. Node index, okay, it's still, yeah, that's my bad. New file context equals, instead of name, we'll say, in fact, we can say new contents, and then we can simply use this new contents and type in node index. So file contains undefined, which it does currently. And then let's just open this, and then we can say hello. And if I type hello, new contents are hello, and it should have written, yeah, there we go. So if I close and reopen, it wrote hello to the file. So just as a quick explanation as to what we're doing here. The gist is at first, we have to import our modules up here. We import filesystem, fs, and readline, and we use their code in our program. So the first thing we're doing here is rl equals readline.createInterface, and this is standard. The way I figured this out is by looking at the documentation for readline. It says you need to do this, and all it's doing is making sure the input is reading from your terminal and the output is printing to your terminal in our case. Sometimes you could use a file. If you wanted to read and write from a file, you could change this, and I'll show you that in the future. But for now, this is what it's doing. And then what we're saying is the file result is reading what's inside the file currently, and we're printing it. And then what we're doing here is we're saying, we're telling you to do new contents, rl.question, and the function takes a second function as a parameter that goes in. So it's just like how you pass things to the function if you're familiar. If you're not, I highly recommend you check out my JavaScript for Beginners tutorial series. But then you can open up this function and print what you need in here, because this second function that comes in here has the results of the line. And what this is doing internally is it's asking the user the question, and then it's waiting for the user to type something, and when they do, then it runs this code here. So what we're doing here is we're just simply writing the new contents to the file, and then we're closing the readline stream, and that ends the program. So that is the gist of how to work with files and the file system, and we even got to work with the readline module as well, which is pretty cool. So if you want to see more videos like this, I recommend you check out my playlist linked in the description, where I'm uploading daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.